what I would like to talk about today is everyone is talking about AI in logistics and everything and how it's great, agentic AI and everything else. Yeah, it's great. But for me, actually, when people talk about AI, they actually talk about data. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but we have data everywhere, especially in last mile. It's like scanning data, routing data, vehicle data, was like customer data and everything else, right? So for me, it's like we have too much data, and I would really like to know what you think about this and the quality of data and how it connected. And because without proper data, you can't add AI module or basically anything, because it will just increase this chaos that there is already there.
I think that you're absolutely right. But data is vital. If you want to play with AI, you need to have data. You can of course create it yourself, but you need to know what are you creating. You need also to what as we always talk about the metadata. You need really to know where the data is coming from. You need to know how long you have it back. You need to know if it's taken into what kind of considerations did you have when you were getting the data. So you're absolutely right. I'm putting things together. You need to have a plan. You can't just take data and hope for the best. That if you put the corrupt data into it because you're not focusing on it, you will get some results which are completely nonsense. And maybe you find out, and maybe you don't find out, because that is the problem. That you when you put many data sources together, you
Hmm.
you are actually opening up something that you probably can't understand in the beginning. So you need to have some idea about what is it that you want to achieve, and then you need to try to understand if this data is actually how can I say, valid.
Hmm.
And I think that's why you need probably a person, people in the loop, because you need to understand that are we really getting value that we should have. And yeah, so it for me it's a very much about that you spend time in understanding, one, what you want, and secondly, to identify the data that you would like to take into consideration.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, and AI is very good on scaling things, right? Right. So it's scaling operations, scaling everything. But when you put actually incorrect or wrong on or just not okay data into it, it will just scale this, and then people start talking like, okay, AI is bad for us. We can't do this. Like sometimes it's just you put the wrong data or outdated data and expect the AI to actually like predict something and provide you with like risk management and everything, but it basically scales the wrong things, and people just don't like it. I don't know why. And I've met a couple of people and they just tell, yeah, AI is great, we tried it, we don't like it, we are just hired some people and they do this work. And for
Mm.
me, it's basically incorrect approach, and it basically creates this opinion that it's not okay, or they are not ready for this.
Yeah, but there can also be quite a lot of numbers of reasons why you're not ready for it, because that
Yeah.
data is just you have data already today, and you probably do wrong anyway, or you do right. But it's and the same thing will happen with AI. You need to.
Hmm.
I think some of the things that you actually have to go back to your model once in a while and actually check if they are correct, and that you're not continues to get data that shows you something wrong. We
Hmm.
usually call this truthing. And if
Hmm.
you take something that is just measurable, like we want to have a fill rate of our trucks or something like that, and you need to make sure that the cameras are, because we use cameras for that.
Hmm.
We need to go in and test it with a laser pin, saying, okay, fine, this is 3 meter 40 inside, this is 2 meter 20 on the height, and this is in the width, and then you see what your AI has calculated in order to make sure that you need to do the adjustment. And that can be a little bit more difficult when you talk about, let's say, last mile operation, where you are looking into the car data mainly, and you're looking into the scanner data and try to merge these two things in order to get some kind of calibration on it could be route point for optimization.
Hmm.
Is it really taking the right position, or does it take a
Yes.
wrong? vision, because otherwise you will guide the drivers in the future to go to a wrong place if it's not valid or not. And these are the things that you really need
Hmm.
to make sure that you always do something that is valid. And then on the other side, you have the management part, which is meaning that are we doing what we should do? Are we, if he scans a wrong license plate, let's say when this is the way to actually connect the scanner with the vehicle. If you take the if you key in, maybe you make mistakes. If you take a picture, you probably have a better solution that
Yes.
know that its validity may be higher, but suddenly your data is getting corrupt, and if you don't see it, you have one day that is shot really from the moon, where it says
Hmm.
your walking distance is twice or 10 times longer than it should be. And of course, that's also why you have to make sure that you have a check on abnormalities and all these things in your model to make sure that you're actually on the right path. So it's a combination of technical skills and rules, I would say, that you put into
Yeah.
say when do you need to have an alert saying that this thing looks really crazy, or and the managerial part of saying, okay, are we doing actually what we should do in order to make sure that we have the validity on the system, because making wrong data is really wrong.
Yeah, and the main part is what I like about, like, especially I would say last few years, it's agentic AI and how it really helps in those basically processes, because it's basically a team of different AI people, I would say so, and they just working, and they have this like AI like manager who is managing them with tasks, and it's really great. And when I speak to people and they, I would say, don't understand the why sometimes AI is making mistakes, I'm just like providing them with some examples, like, you know when you, let's say, use ChatGPT, right? And you have this a huge thread of different messages on, let's say, on even on the same topic, right? You go back and forth, right? You ask something, it replies. You ask something, it replies. But it can reply with the pretty great, I would say, like, result. So you have everything is correct. You can double check it in the internet, like Google something or not, right? And then sometimes it has this,
Hallucinations, they have
yeah, this, yeah, but you need always check it, because again, it's the same thing that you're saying, like, go to the truck, measure everything, if it's doing correct work, right? It's the
Mm,
same thing, like in ChatGPT, you need to also, I would say, tell him, okay, dude, what are you doing? Just
mm,
focus on this and this. We don't need this and this.
mm,
Remind constantly that this is the wrong way, this is the right way, and that's how it actually works. And this is where sometimes even now you just don't need people to do it with AI and train these models. You just create this team of AI agents, and you just check them like once a day or once a week, depends on the scale of volume and stuff like this. And it's really cool for me, and I really like this approach, because like it really shows the great result in the less hallucinations,
mm.
sometimes no hallucinations at all, and that's really cool idea
I
for me.
think that I try to see. We just did a huge project. We're still working on it, and
Hmm.
it's actually we have an AI to give guidance. I've had to be honest now. Right now, we haven't asked the AI to do the guidance, and I can tell you why. Because I have had a hunch that we always have been doing it wrong. It sounds really
Hmm.
bad, but it's not bad because it's very natural. We have done it in a natural way, and the thing is that I wanted them to. If I come with an AI that tells you to do something which is completely different, I think that we will have a revolution at your hand, and we will have distrust because you don't understand how the AI is calibrating all the data and what it takes into consideration. So I've asked the local management to do their own rules first. So they get a possibility to try their own rules and say, okay, what should be it could be tasks, which task is more important than another, in order to figure out which
Hmm.
how you're combining a number of tasks. And then they come back and say, hey, the first way we saw it was wrong. And we constantly work on making adjusting these tasks, or the metrics behind the tasks all the time. And in the end, there comes out an understanding that, yeah, but this is the way that we were operating. This is how we thought we were operating. It doesn't maybe be the right way, but this
Hmm.
is how we did. And then at some point it comes saying, okay, fine, Christian, isn't there a possibility that we can have the AI to guide us? Then it becomes a pull instead of a push, where you come with an AI and is doing something completely, unexplanatory. So
Hmm.
for me, it's also a question about that we need to make AI tangible. Like we said in the old days, the only way we could explain IT was if we made it tangible, if we made it
Yes.
something that people could feel, or something that they can see. And I think that we need to do the same trip also on the AI, and not just to take everything that AI says for given. We need to understand and learn. Like a little bit like you have done with ChatGPT. You found out that you get some answers which is completely nuts. I don't agree about that. Okay, then
Yeah.
you say to the AI and say, hey, you need to take that away, because that is not fitting in this uh, uh, in this world picture that I have,
Hmm.
and I cannot justify it. That I can't see the meaning of it. So then you tell it and say, okay, fine. You need to take these things out because they are not in the right direction. And I think the same way when you're working, especially when you're working with people in operation, they need to actually, why would I rely to it? It's a little bit
Yeah.
like when you do route optimization the first time. The guy's been driving his route for 15 years, and
Hmm.
then you come with an optimization engine that say that he has to drive the other way, and he just look at you and say, yeah, yeah, fine, fine, and then he goes out in the and then you have
Yeah.
to sometimes, you have to say, sit next to him and say, okay, fine, let's try my route now. And
Yeah.
maybe I don't have the information that you have. Maybe I don't have the information from the traffic data. Maybe I don't have the information that this customer actually takes 5 minutes to deliver, because you have to go through the gate. They don't want it in the reception. They want it on the third floor, and you have to take the elevator up and stuff like that. And this is something that when you work with averages in your optimization model, it doesn't reflect that. So you lose
Hmm.
maybe 3.5 minutes on just that stop, and then your ETAs for the rest of the day is just screwed up, because you just have five customers, which is like that, maybe just next to each other. And this is where you need also to understand the AI, and you need to understand the reality, and maybe sometimes you have the AI to help you to understand the reality, by combining, the some some extra skills that you give into your mobile phone or to the
Yeah.
vehicle, where it is, so you get more clarity on the data that you're actually collecting. So you make some points. It's like I usually put two technologies on top of each other if I have, you know, the probability of doing that from a cost point, but because also to give the security of the system, that you don't just have one truth, but you actually have two truths. But also when you measure it in two different ways, you actually, if you put them on top of each other, you see things you didn't expect. And I think that is, I always say, I prefer to have two technology mixed up together, because that is really giving me clarity that the validity of the data is high, and thereby when I ask an AI to make a solution out of it, I'm more certain that the AI is right than wrong, um, because I have indications. I have these indications that
Hmm.
are moving in the right direction. So I think that this is a responsibility that lies very heavy on us who are implementing this. That we need also to think about. We need to put person in the loop. We need to have that validation done, and we need also to make sure that we have thought really long about how we want to do it, and that we actually validate if we are seeing the right thing or not. I'm always getting really frustrated if I'm find out that I've done something really wrong, but it happens. I have to honestly,
Yeah.
it happens.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but the main problem, as you mentioned, like you like sometimes to combine two technologies or two tools or something like this, right? But not everyone can do this, right? So not everyone has like the amount of, I don't know, scale or amount of, I would say, money to operate in this uh, volumes that PostNord do, right? So
Yeah.
that's the main part, right? And I wonder, I've been talking to one person. They have a lot of problems in maintenance, and they build this great risk management tool for the maintenance, and it even like listens to the engine and the amount of sound it makes, and if it works properly or not. But sometimes, okay, the system tracks everything and it goes, okay, we have like unusual sound or unusual vibration here. But the driver who drives this, I don't know, truck, locomotive, or anything, right? He drives it for, I don't know, 20 years. It's completely fine for him. He is just driving it, and it sounds normal. But the AI can, I don't know, hear
Mm.
something that the person can't, right?
Yeah.
And then driver needs to stop, needs to check everything, if everything is okay, because sometimes, of course, this, I would say, notification comes to the office, right? To the people who are sitting behind the desk. They have this notification, they check it, then they need to communicate with driver, they need to, to tell him to stop, and it's a lot of time, right? Rather than, I don't know, driver to have this tool, let's say, that he's going, and then he goes like a pop-up message on the navigation monitor or something like this, like, okay, you have like the vibration is spiked here and here, please check.
Mm.
And then I wonder, what do you think about this type of things? Should we trust AI in this? Because like the driver who drives the, I would say, truck for 20 years, he knows it better than any other tool that was created few months ago, right?
Yeah.
That's the point that you are saying, that why should they trust it?
Mm.
Because I think it's like a huge problem, because in this situation that I'm talking about, the driver was, I would say, the team, like the whole team, it was like around 30 or 45 people. They were really against it, because
Mm.
okay, I'm wasting a lot of time because I need to check. But few times they checked, it was okay. Then they checked, it was okay. Then they didn't check, and then the truck just completely collapsed. And that was the main problem, because even if it has like slightly like decrease in the vibration or anything with the engine, it's okay, because sometimes it happens, right? Depends on the road, on the amount of hours that the truck operates, right? But sometimes it's just this little moment, and then they didn't check it, and it collapsed. So I wonder, what do you think, how exactly we can change the, let's say, people who are in the industry for many years, and they have to,
Mm.
right, use those tools, work on that, but
Mm.
they sometimes just don't want, because as you mentioned, this is the best route, but I've been driving this route for 20 years. Why should I change it now?
Mm.
Because of something.
Yeah.
How exactly we can help people to understand that this is really, like, especially the people from operations, people who are on the field, like they have their boots on the ground, and that's how exactly do you think it can be tackled, this issue?
I will take two things. I say that it's, the power that we have in the AI today, when we use compared to what we had the first time, is completely a different story. And I think we did these AI things. I've been working with AI probably now 8, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Before this is since I introduced the first digital twin in our production. But and the possibility today have also changed my mindset. No, I wasn't say I was against AI, otherwise I wouldn't work with AI back in the days. But I see an enormous change. I was always argumenting that we needed to have a huge amount of domain knowledge when we started, and I truly believe that it's helping also today. That you need to know, you need to understand what is it that you want to do. But I see also today there are tools that we never had before.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you talk about vibrations and vibrations in a car, there are some things that where we have to follow protocol in order to get our warranties. There is no question about that. You have to do that, because if you buy a vehicle, you don't buy it for driving around 2 years. No, you probably have a TCO that says that you need to drive this vehicle at least 8 years, and you need to sell it after 10 or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a purchasing thing. And I've seen vehicles which which have warranties which are not being followed. You drive X number of kilometers, and people are actually not putting them to service. I'm actually, I would put rules in it and say that the vehicle can't start. I would
Hmm.
use AI to connect all the things and say you cannot start before I have a message, from the company that you purchased it for, that you have booked your service, so you're compliant with the warranties, because the warranties is really a cost when it comes to operation. And I can
Yeah.
give you an example on this with the engines and the vibrations. And this is from another industry. I was
Hmm.
speaking at a conference, because I go to conferences in many different sectors, because I like to take ideas from other industries and try to put them into us, because I think this is much cheaper, because we know it works in the other industry. And so we're not talking about the technology, we're talking about the change management and only
Yeah.
thing. Because many times when you do things, if you want to do it and only looking into your own industry and you want to do a change, you also have to do the technical implementation also. But I like to take that out of the equation. So I was speaking at this conference in Germany, and
Hmm.
it was a manufacturing conference, and it had a couple of young guys who started a consulting company, and they were equipped with these sensors as you talk about. So maybe they had these magnets where they just could put sensors on everything on the machine, and they were actually helping a paper producer who was making toilet rolls. It doesn't sound that sexy, but the toilet roll machine is costing you 100 million euro.
Of
And
course. Yeah.
because you need to put this water thing into the one end, and it comes out of toilet paper on the other end. And they had 15 stops a week.
Hmm.
Stops a week they
Hmm.
had. And they have, of course, some people who've been working in this plant for 20 years, and since we bought this machine, and they knew more or less that, okay, if this happens, we need to go back and check this. We need to go back and check this, and then we solve the problem from there. And this was what they have done all the time, and they managed to keep this machine on 15 stops. Then these two guys comes in with their own new started consulting companies with magnets and everything, and they put magnets on the whole thing. They have no knowledge at all
Yeah. But they
on
have magnets.
they have magnets with sensors. And
Yeah.
what they're doing with these sensors is that they actually listen, if these things happen, what happened before? So what you do, you backtrack the problems and you find out
Hmm.
the cause of the problem. And that's what they did. And they managed in 1 month to actually go from 15 stops to 3 stops. And that meant that the productivity of this machine increased with 50%.
Yeah.
I
Of
think
course.
that
Yeah.
was that was why that was when I said, okay, bloody hell, this is has nothing to do with domain knowledge. It has to
Hmm.
do with relationships between incidents. So that's why
And
I think,
thinking outside of the box, right?
yeah, but
Because
you solve the problem by going to the core. I
yeah.
had worked with that when I did the digital twin, and I was doing some programming, and the programming was so complex because it was actually about how a sorter is working, and what kind of rule should be before that kind of rule and stuff like that. And when we sorted wrong, we needed to go back and find out what was actually the rule that was wrong, and we had to use an AI digital twin in order to see which patterns was actually, where did it break or where did it start to break, so in order to fix the core problem. And this is what I think also about the vehicles today, that maybe, in the old days we just took it at a granularity which was really high, and there we of course made mistakes. But the thing is, today when we have the data from the producer, because what happens is, many times we can talk to the producer of the vehicle and have a collaborative problem. They have data from all their vehicles going, since the day they produced it, because they are putting
Yes.
sensors in everywhere in a vehicle. And today, a vehicle is just one big computer. So
Hmm.
they know when things are going in the wrong way or the right way. So that's why when you listen to that, you need to check these things. I would say I believe it 10, 100 times more today than I would do 10 years ago. And that's why I'm saying that I think that if we take this problem and talk to our employees, and what would they do if it was their own vehicle? Huh? If they just bought a new electrical vehicle, an electrical vehicle says, okay, um, you need to check this because otherwise
I'm
your
not
own
starting.
car will not work. And it's really, it really comes back to a question I always ask myself, and I ask people if they seem not to think about what they're doing, and saying, okay, fine, what do you want today? Do you want to have your salary, or the things that you actually produce for your company? The right question is only that you need to make sure that the hands that feed you is happy. So you need
Yes.
to make sure that you're actually doing what the company asks you to do, and not what you think is best. If you think it's best and you think you're right, let's have a discussion about it, because I cannot guarantee you that I'm right 100%. But when it comes to something like vehicles, this vehicle's vibration is not something that hopefully that you invented. It's something
Yes.
that you talk to the manufacturer about, and the manufacturer maybe has 100,000 vehicles running like this over the globe, and then
Hmm.
you start to question and say, nah, no, it doesn't fit for me. I think it's a question about dialogue, and a question about making these things very clear, that
Hmm.
this is how it works. And yes, of course, why do you want to check it? Because you want to avoid a very expensive reparation. And I think now, when people are doing electrical vehicles and stuff like that, these batteries are really heavy. Yes, they are cheap
Yeah.
in maintenance, because we don't have many mechanical parts that we had in the old days. But the batteries are extremely expensive. So that's why you need to maybe have some focus on other things than you had maybe before, because the vehicle before was more a mechanical vehicle. If you still drive a 20-year-old vehicle, I think that is probably not a Euro grade 6 or whatever. So you should change that vehicle instead. But
Yeah.
it's but
Yeah.
if I'm just saying that I believed I believe much more in domain knowledge before. I'm saying it's still valuable, because when it comes to evaluating the data, I think it's really, really valuable. But I think also that we see things today in patterns that we never could imagine before. And I think also when you come to route optimization, if you take a person that never driven in the area before, and you ask them to follow the route, they're extremely happy. They're really happy, because otherwise they would never manage. But
Yes.
if you take somebody that driven the road for 10, 15 years, they have they have their own plan in their head, because sometimes if you have a stop and go situation, it feels more that if you're driving around it, that you actually save time. But it's a mental thing. It's actually not a calculated thing. And this
Hmm.
is something that where you and I, we battle with Apple or Google Maps. You know, do we believe that it says that it's the right way? You see this queue in front of you, so you go off the motorway, and then you drive 10 kilometers around to get it, and you feel, I cheated them.
Yeah, and then you see the
And then
same
you
car
see
that was in, yeah, behind you in the line. It's all driving near the you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
precisely. So this is the battles that we are fighting.
Yeah, and very great thing that you mentioned. And for me, what I think, because like I'm in logistics for a few years, right? Not the 10, 20, 30 years. And I've met people who just started. They have the idea, they believe it. They don't know, they don't have the exact domain knowledge. They just know that the problem is this and the solution for the problem is this. It's like when sometimes people just switch from one industry to another because they found out that they can really, I would say, change everything how people work. Because of course someone who has like 20 years or 30 years or 40 years in the industry domain, and they have this experience, they know how to do and how to react on some stuff. But sometimes people who don't know those patterns that were like 10, 20, 30 years ago, they just come with a new idea, with the new solution, and they just changes everything, and they move really fast. That's what I really like about the industry nowadays as well. And also, one more thing that I wanted to ask you, that you mentioned that those guys who like put the sensors, have you worked with them more than on other projects or not, to like to put those
No,
sensors on the track
I,
or not?
I I didn't work with them because they were doing in manufacturing. But I was
Ah,
saying that
okay.
if I called my colleague, who is he's almost 30 years younger than me, and because I'm an old geezer, um, and I said to him, if I was 30 years younger, you and I, we could start a company, because this is so smart. at that time, because you have a lot of companies in Germany which are family owned, and they haven't invested in technology because they didn't know what happened. Will their son or daughter take over, or will they just sell it?
Mhm.
So, but I think that showing that you have these type of technologies, and I say I've been very gifted because I've had jobs where I had the possibility, even though I've been in the same company now for 40 years. I've been doing a lot of different things, but I also had the opportunity to seek answers other places than just where I was working or walking, so to speak. So I've been trying to do what the young people are doing. I've been trying to go to different industries, try to pick and choose, try to figure out how are they solving the same problem that you more or less have. And I get inspiration from everything. I get it from manufacturing. I get it from retail, on motions and movements and stuff like that, because they like to organize so you purchase more or whatever it is. Air, from aviation, from it
Mhm.
can be anything. I'm just super eager to see things in a different mode, and I think also that's why I'm working with quite a lot of startups, because I love to be disrupted. I'm not being angry if somebody comes and say, Christian, you've been completely wrong all your life. I say, okay, fantastic. Tell me now. I want to know.
Yeah.
Because that I think that is where we are right now. Is that we are living in a network world where you more share things, and especially if you educate people, you will find out that as soon as they're educated, they will leave you because they will learn some more, and they want to learn from another place in order to
And
grow.
that's okay.
And for me, that's okay also.
Yeah.
It hurts sometimes, but
Yeah.
if you treated them right, they maybe come back to you. You never know, and then they come wiser back than they started also. So I think it's a very much. Uh, I think we actually could learn more by sharing ideas, and by sending people to different industries and come back with new ideas. And I try to do that myself. And I think that when it comes to AI, when it comes to collecting data, when it comes to see this path through this forest, which it usually is, and if you only see the obstacle in front of you, and don't have an idea about that path that actually can make you move through the trees, I think that you're missing really a lot of opportunities when it comes to how we should work with AI, and how we should take other data things in, and just look into the things we see now. That it's, of course, yes, it's a cost issue. It's a
Yeah.
infrastructure change that you see now with the lockers coming up everywhere. But it's also about convenience. And I think that if you forget that it's actually about the end consumer, because we are in a pull process. So if you forget the end consumer and just look at it, the mechanical optimization, I think you will not have the customers in the end if you don't think about their well-being, their
Yeah.
happiness. Because
I
when
mean,
they figure out, Bogdan, like you do, you're talking to your AI, you have your agentic AI helping you. When most of the people figure out that they can order the parcel, or they can book a hotel, or they can do whatever, by just making a nice little prompt, which is now a
yeah.
story. It's just a story you write. It's not like you have to write in code anymore. No, you just
Yeah.
tell what you want. You just need to be specific. You can just ask for, can I get, what's the best prompt to book a hotel? You just ask ChatGPT that. And I do that because I don't want to spend my whole day looking at booking.com. But maybe I go to booking.com afterwards to see, are
Exact.
are
Yeah.
they matching the prices or what? But the thing is that we are getting wiser all the time, and the end consumer is getting more wise. And the fastest growing segment is the alphas. Uh,
Mhm.
they're ordering all the stuff from China, uh, and they are telling their parents, why don't you do the same way I do? I think I saw that 30% of the population actually believes, and I think it was like a big sample that somebody had done, believes the AI, which means that they will not ask questions. They will just say, okay, fine, I want the best price, maybe I don't like that, and I want to have it delivered to my place. I want to have it to my safe place, which is maybe a put point, maybe a locker, or maybe a home. It doesn't matter, you define it yourself. and I don't care about if I get it fast or I get it slow, because I just want to have that price, and maybe I need it for a camping trip that I have in 14 days. So my
Yeah.
deadline is in 10 days, so you just find me what I want, and I wanted to have it in my locker or whatever it is. When that happens and you don't take that into consideration, that the end consumer is actually the one that pulling the parcels in our logistics, then you have a problem. I believe that.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right, because sometimes people who are, I would say, building all these solutions, building everything, right? They forgot that they also end consumers for other companies, I would say.
Mm.
I work in logistics, and sometimes I just sit there like ordering, I don't know, cat food, and I would just sit there and like order everything, put it into the checkout, order, put the location of the locker, everything, and then I would just freeze for a few moments and think, wow, this is and I know how exactly it works, because this is what I speak to people about, and it's really great, when you realize, okay, great, and now I put my order, then it goes there, there, and there, then it goes. And sometimes people just forget that. Put yourself into the position of your end consumer, and just think about what would they like, what would you like, because you are also one of them, but you just don't realize it for a lot of time. And it's really sometimes, so easy to understand your end consumer. You don't need all these people who will do the statistics and clicks and everything. Just think how you would be
Mm.
happy about everything, because,
Yes.
like, I don't know, I have like two cans of food, and then I need more. Then
Mm.
I understand that, like, the day after tomorrow I will need more food for my cat. How exactly I need it fast. I need it not for the all money in the world.
Yep.
Then I can search here and order to the nearest locker, so it will be here in 2 days, or the day after tomorrow, so exactly when I need it and what I need. That's the main thing. And sometimes people just forget it, and you just sit there and think, wow, this is really so easy sometimes, just to
Mm.
understand your customer, because you
Yeah.
are one of the customer for another, like, brand or another company. That's really so easy.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. I think that uh, when I was studying back in the days, which is really long time ago, I took my master in marketing and strategy, and I thought, okay, how can I work with this? And then I went into I stayed, because at the same time I was still studying when I worked in the post, and it took me many years to because I worked my way up. I didn't just use my academic grade to get somewhere else, but I just worked my way up from the floor, and and then I always had this focus on the end consumer because of my marketing mind, and I've been very
Yeah,
conscious about impact for the end consumer all the time. But I think that the last 10 years I've been even more concerned about it, because the consumer is actually becoming more and more powerful.
of
We
course.
talk about the opposite thing, but it actually becomes now clear when you have this agentic AI in front of you. We will be much more selective if we don't get from that company what we ask for, and we don't get a nice answer. I will probably find another one.
Yeah,
And
even a more expensive one, but still I will
because
get, like, yeah,
because convenience becomes much more important. And I
yeah,
think when we look at the lockers today, as soon as people, it depends on where you are, of course. But if you look at Western Europe, which I have resided in for many years, you know people are convenient, and they have plans. So they tell them that you have the parcel is now in your locker. Do they run down to pick it up? No way. We trust in the lockers, we trust it in the post, we trust everything. So they will, maybe in 24 hours they will pick it up. But if they don't have an incentive, like you have with InPost, and say you can get X number of days or X number of hours or whatever it is, in order to, or you can get a lottery ticket if you pick it up in the first 6 hours or whatever it is that actually motivates you, then you will just, I have my plans and I need to do this and I was planning to do that, and then it just actually thinks that's what is driving that. That is only one thing, and that is your convenience. That in the old days when you ordered a parcel on the internet, you took a big decision. You didn't even know if it was coming. You had this was like, and you got it, so you ran down and picked it up. But now you are ordering cat food. does that something that you will stay home for to make sure that you get the cat food? Only if they're starving, or only if you
Yeah.
don't plan. But otherwise, you would not do that. It's so in that sense, it's really transforming the way that we see the world, and we have to see the world is actually now it's become much more consumer centric. And that is also, I think, it's still something that the shippers need to think more about. They don't have the secret sauce anymore.
Yeah.
Secret sauce is actually understanding the end consumer. So if you don't have all the knowledge that we have as carriers, you're not sitting on the secret sauce anymore. Somebody just stole the recipe for the it's like Coca-Cola changed its taste over the last 40 years many times because they're constantly worry about what the end consumer thinks of. This is where we are. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree with
it's
you.
gonna be a lot of changes in the future here. So
I really like this how from I would say like one industry is like evolving the I would say like the technology and everything. It's like everything changed when people start to use smartphones because that industry is evolved like drastically with everything changing and now then other like I don't know made media changed also because of the technologies and like it's like step by step like one industry changed, it influenced another one, that's the industry influence another one. And it's really great how you play with this ping pong because like now to tomorrow someone will I don't know create something really smart in the logistics that will influence retail, then it will influence I don't know media, and it's really great to see
yeah,
how
but
this.
look, just take airlines. In the old days, we were always waiting to the last minute because then we got the best prices. It doesn't work that anymore. No, they keep the high prices at the last minute, and then what
Yeah.
happens is that you get the smart people will figure out and say you should always buy these on a Tuesday because the
Hmm.
Tuesday on average the prices are low. And then I just saw, okay, fine. If you want to buy cheap flight tickets, you change your VPN to India because
Yeah.
India has the lowest prices on flights. And this, like, it's changing the completely behavior. And you have chat GPTs who's like influencers writing to you every second minute and saying, this is how you book a flight and this is how you cheat the systems in order to make sure that you can get a flight from New York to Europe or
Yeah.
whatever, or the opposite way. In the cheapest way is that you do this, and maybe you open up for cross docks or whatever. As you say, the industries are really changing, and it's not small things. Look at the German car manufacturers who are being
Hmm.
completely stressed and overrun by the Chinese. And why? Because the Chinese are listening to the end consumer. You know,
Yeah.
the end consumer says, "I want to have a back seat that can flip 90 degrees, so I can open my hatchback and I can look at the sunset." And a German engineer says,
No.
Warum? Why? This doesn't make any sense, because it's then there may be this the noise cancellation and whatever they have of argument, but they are not
Yeah.
listening to the end consumer, and the end consumer sits with the power, and that's why now you have these auction houses in China where you can buy these Western fabricated wonders from Mercedes and whoever. You can get them cheap now in China because you know it, there's no individual camera that follows you and change the seat after you, even if you sit and move into the back seat. You can not get this entertainment system and a 22-inch screen on the back seat. And a German engineer would say this doesn't make sense. It
Or like
doesn't.
auto parking,
Yeah,
yeah, you just close the door and go, and a car parking
you're
by
absolutely
themselves.
right. The changes that you see in other industries are also the changes that you see that will move into your industry. And you just have to be aware of it, and you have to have an open mind. And this is also something that we need to make sure that we are communicating also
Hmm.
to the person who's driving the truck and the guy who's delivering the parcel or whatever to the lockers, that this world is changing all the time, and we need, in order to be and to have our place there in the future, we need to be adjustable. We need to change to fluctuations, and we need to use intelligence in order to understand what the end consumers actually want us to do, and how we can do that in the best way from an operational point as well. And there we have to learn from other industries and take the best things when it comes also to AI, and work with it in a secure way. And I always said logistics is the perfect place for
Yeah.
AI because we do the same thing every day. You know,
Yes. Yes.
every Every day we do the same thing. We ask for the same report. We are we give the driver the same advice, follow the route and do this. It's all the same loop that drives.
Full circle every day.
Full
Yeah.
circle every day. It
Yeah.
just screams for AI and automation. It does that. But
Yeah.
we are an industry which is, I would say, it's. I used to say it was an old man industries, because we don't share, we don't give data, and all that. That was maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Hmm.
Luckily now I see that all kinds of people are coming into the industry, and I meet that. I know that when I go to conferences, I see that it's opened up for a lot compared to what it was in the old days, but there's still a lot of the mindset left,
Yeah.
of traditional mindset. And I think that this is where we have to challenge each other, so this is where we are today.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I believe we are running out of time, and if we start another topic, it will
We can't.
take. Yeah,
I
we just can't.
have a
Yeah.
meeting in 7 minutes.